Hey Audrey, week two comments on needs assessment assignments. First, comparing two models of needs assessment, you compared in chapter 7 of the section, the section on assessing needs and resources in the community toolbox, the chapter 7 and chapter 8, one of which was about assessing needs from a sort of a deficit-based approach, and the other was about identifying community assets. And this, you didn't mention this, but you mentioned it a little bit in your last comment. Is sort of reflected, this sort of strengths versus deficit versus assets approach is reflected in the Altshuler articles as well. So, and I think that's kind of an important distinction in kind of needs assessment. And that was a good post, and so clearly you kind of identify, you sort of looked through the steps and saw, what they were and compared them. When it came to the Seeds of Grace comparison, I got a little bit. I thought it could have been structured a little bit better in terms of us laying out the kind of the needs and the stakeholders whose needs they are. So I could pull out from your. I pulled out that there are people who are hungry. There are people who have insufficient resources. There's people who may eat, but then there's nutrient poor. There's a lack of knowledge on what to grow, and so it was not quite clear. Are these needs of the same people that the Seeds of Grace is trying to address? Are these different people? So in terms of giving the food, is giving the food is different from the people who are growing the food? So what the needs of the people who are receiving the food versus those who are growing the food? Which is more important? So sort of really trying to sort of drill down on this, and as I sort of refer back to the admitting failure case of what appears to be a sort of a simple approach to sort of meeting the needs. Actually, the needs were really not quite specified in the right way, so it didn't quite happen in the way that at least the Peace Corps volunteer thought it would. So that's. I realise obviously that this is not your organisation, that you're trying to get this from the director, but I guess some kind of comment on that would be useful. So do you think she has a good grasp of which needs and which priorities and things like that, or is this sort of instinctive and emotive? So there's this sort of logical, positivist way of approaching the world. Here's this sort of problem. We address the problem, check it, solve it. Or try to solve it, check, change things, etc. And then there's a second view, which is, well, actually, it's all about the world, the way the world works. It's all about relationships and what we do, and it's sort of part of it about solving problems. It's about sort of emerging issues and how we engage and who we relate with, and identifying a problem to solve is not the right way to go. I mean, there are some people that do believe that, and there are some people who act in that way as well, whether or not they actually quite believe it. So that might be a kind of a useful comparison to make, or a useful frame to make for Seeds of Grace as we go through this course. Anyway, so when you're thinking about the final paper about the assessing needs section on your final paper on this on Seeds of Grace is try to be about as specific as you can on the needs that they seem to be addressing, I think they're addressing, and what they actually are addressing, because that's kind of an important distinction. All right, hope that helps. Okay, bye.